our coronavirus survivors. We have some here locally. We have an individual here from Dallas, Texas. So we're just going to have a candid talk about how these individuals survive the coronaviruses. We have some asymptomatic individuals on here as well. So we're just going to have a conversation about their corona stories and what the face of corona looks like, a large percentage of it. But before we start our conversation about coronavirus, we have to put our 2 cents in on George Floyd. And as a public servant, and I'll let our guests, they can talk as well about this. We can pass the mic around. As a public servant for 18 years, I am a Black man first. I am a police officer here in Memphis, Tennessee, and I love my job. But these killings put me in a conflict situation. It puts me in the middle. And me being a Black man in America, I've been stereotyped. I've experienced racism. I've been pulled over and harassed by white racist officers. So I've seen it. And it puts me in a situation where it makes my job really hard. And I send condolences out to George Floyd. I appreciate all the up and upright police officers, and I condone any type of corruption and police brutality 100%. So I sympathize with my Black sisters and brothers. I sympathize with all of the Black police officers who are working out here. I sympathize with all of the good white police officers and the other races, but it puts me in a bad situation. And feel free to chime in, anyone as you like, but that's my 2 cents on George Floyd. And those officers should be charged with murder. And matter of fact, that United States attorney who had that weak press conference 3 minutes ago claiming they need more evidence, more video, she should be ashamed of herself. But she was appointed by Donald Trump, so I understand that. But nevertheless, that was a waste of our time, and it's a slap in the face to say you need more videos to charge these individuals. So feel free to chime in, guests, before we begin our coronavirus conversation.
Oh, well, my 2 cents, I watched several cities last night on CNN, particularly Minnesota. And it was just heartbreaking to see this happening once again and again and again. You put a video up, and I watched it, Martin Luther King talking in the 1960s about the rioting that was taking place in the civil rights movement and the mood of the Negro at the time of being tired about things that's happening and going on in the community. And one thing that stuck out to me that he said was that it's going to take white America to step in to help us deal with all of the aggression, the microaggressions that we have in our community. And I don't want to deflect from what's going on, but it's a long intersection of crime and the social determinants and the things that we don't see, with white supremacy that's in play here. And so it's much bigger than just crime, and it's much bigger than what we see with the police, with this incident with the men, and it keep happening over and over again, Black men. So it was just heartbreaking to even watch, to see somebody die, to see somebody die. So it was traumatizing to me to hear him call out for his mom. And, I'm a boy mom. So, and I know we real close, and I don't know what I would do if I had to watch a video of somebody doing that to you and you calling out for me. So I wasn't there. I don't know the circumstances. I just know what I saw. And it was just heartbreaking that we have gotten to this far gone with human life. And especially in the profession that I'm in law enforcement as well. And in the profession that we in, that we know what we're trying to do and what we're not trying to do. So we got to do better. We got to do better for all of us, people of color. It makes it hard to do your job. It makes it hard to do your job, especially when you out here doing what you swore in to do, protect and serve, current custody for people. And I take my oath seriously. And it doesn't speak for all of us. It does not speak for all of us in law enforcement and public service, life, career public service. It doesn't speak for us as a Black woman in America.
Well, I'd just like to say that I think it's a tragedy what happened in Minnesota. Nobody wants to lose a life. I want to say that I am a Black male. I am the father of a Black male. I am the grandfather of 4 or 5 young Black males. Prior military, been all over the world, just done a lot of things in life. And there are a lot of good police officers that are out there. And you're right. You know, I always say they're bad police officers.
Oh, yeah.
To be weeded out. All right. Because what happens is you have 2% of officers that are actually good individuals and want to give back to their communities and do the right things. I actually represent 2,000 police officers in the city of Memphis. I'm a police officer. My wife's a police officer. My son's a police officer. My niece is a police officer. My daughter works for the police department. So, and I know that I work alongside good, hardworking, caring individuals. And when I'm in the streets, or when I was in the streets, I would not stand for an individual to go beyond the boundaries of what was happening. And I always told people, if you don't want me to tell nobody, don't do it around me. I'm not about to let you abuse somebody in my community, in somebody else's community. Now, don't get me wrong. If you want to get wrong, I'll get wrong with you. But at the same time, once you are subdued and you're in handcuffs, yes, you call it off. You sit people up, you put them in the car, and you back the hell up so that you can breathe. Not only allow them to breathe so that you can breathe, but when things like this happens, it tarnishes all of the good. You know, when I was in the military, it said, you know, you can get all of those attaboys, but that one all shoot cancels out all of the good that has been done. One of the things that I didn't understand, and I'm gonna get off here, didn't understand is I get it. I get what happened in Minnesota. I admit it. I've seen police officers all over the place admitting that they don't agree with it. Somebody should be held accountable, whole 9 years. Yet, on a daily basis, city of Memphis, we have individuals that are above and beyond, and it's always seen. And I don't have a problem with people protesting, because in 1968, I marched in Memphis, Main Street. Don't shop, boycott, don't shop, boycott. If you're Black, take it back. If you're white, mean right. I don't want to hear all of that stuff that people are talking, because we have a systemic problem in our community that leads a lot of times to individuals being put in situations that individuals take advantage of and perpetuate crime daily. And I'm not trying to deflect from what happened with Mr. Floyd. I'm telling you up front, I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I ain't condoning it. Hamada, hamada, hamada. But on the other, we got to be careful, and we have to be cognizant of ensuring that our community is getting back on track as we're taking care of our community. Because what I saw last night in Memphis, and people said, well, it's a crisis going on across the country, so we're reacting to a crisis. I got it, not a problem. But see, we have a crisis going on in our community daily, that I don't see the same reaction from. And I say the same thing to the mayor of the city and to anybody else. When the coronavirus hit, I saw how people react to a crisis. But see, we've been having a crisis in our community every day. And I don't see the mayor reacting the same way. I don't see the governor reacting the same way, or the president, or anybody else. And I'm out.
I guess
laughing, Mark.
I guess I'll chime in now, Mike. I'll chime in. You know, being a police officer myself, it is difficult to see a man killed basically on live TV. That's not in the training manual. That's not anything that's being taught. Like Mike said, I've served the country, United States Army. I've been a police officer a little bit more than 36 years. Even as a training officer, you don't train it, you teach it. Once that person's in full control, and we consider control being in handcuffs, you put them in a safe place in the backseat of the car. Yeah, being a black man in America today is a little difficult. It's because of choice. You know, someone asked me today how I felt about it, and it's racism. And I just told them point blank, racism has never gone away. It was suppressed.
In disguise.
It was suppressed. Now we got individuals in place that are perpetuating it again, and now it's rearing its ugly head again. So we as black men in America, you know, when you talk to people, that first thing they say is, I know. What we should do more is get in the know. We need to know what our rights are. We need to understand that when the police give you some instructions, you have to comply with them. There are rules and regulations that I have to enforce that I may not always agree with, but the compliance is right there on the scene. If we're two men and there's a disturbance here and we can get some kind of understanding, let's get it here instead of in front of a judge. Because when you go in front of the judge, it's going to cost you money.
Yeah. Anybody else before we move on with our topic of the day? Ladies, Pastor Will, anybody?
Well, I mean, I've got 2 cents. I wanted to, of course, you know, defer to all of the peace officers that are here and just, you know, really hear and respect you all's perspectives, because I understand, you know, you've got to walk a very fine line, you know, understanding this crisis, you know, from the perspective of being an African-American person, but then also understanding the stresses and the pressures and the complexities and the political career implications that you all have for speaking up. I have another buddy that's a police officer as well, and he said, you know, it's really hard for Black officers because many times you all don't hear our silent cries and hear our voices, but you got to understand, you know, sometimes if you speak up, you got other people on the police force that's not going to back you up. You know, you need somebody, you know, to come on a call, you know what I'm saying? And now they calling you a snitch, you know what I'm saying? And so they leave you out there by yourself. And so I understand all of these things. And so I guess I could offer, you know, from the perspective of a faith leader right now, this is extremely difficult because the truth, and, you know, Gwen and David have had a little bit of experience with me as a pastor. I'm one of those kinds I'm gonna just say like it is, you know what I'm saying? And I have been trying to swallow a whole lot of cuss words these last few days. And I'm
you should have been in our Bible study last night.
I let them cuss. I let the members cuss last night.
Bible study.
You know what I'm saying?
Don't tell Pastor Goose though I did that. Don't tell him.
But here's the thing. You know what I'm saying? People need to be able to let the steam off. They've got to be able, in a very safe space, to be able to share how they feel, because as a community, we're angry, we're grieving, we're frustrated, you know, and we don't know what to do with all of that. And as a faith leader, you know, I not only have to try to deal with my own emotions about this, because I'm pissed off too, you know, but then try to help people to move through this in healthy, responsible kinds of ways. And sometimes, to be honest with you, I don't know what that is, because, you know, I hate seeing the Target get tore up like it was, and I hate to see buildings and everything burned down. But the truth is we tried everything else and nothing else worked, you know. And so now people are at a place who's like, well, you didn't understand when I was nonviolent. Maybe you'll understand if I burn your stuff down. And so that's just real deal. And we have to kind of talk through it as leaders and figure that kind of stuff out. But, you know, I was just out today and just thinking back to the 2008 campaign when Barack Obama was running for president, and Dr. Jeremiah Wright spoke of this, and he spoke very prophetically. And he said that the chickens were coming home to roost. And that is indeed what America is reaping right now. And so I cry on the inside, because the truth is this will get much, much worse before it will get better, because we've opened a Pandora's box, and people are just not going to put up with this anymore. They're just not. And you know, and that's not just Black folks. There's some white people of conscience that's not going to put up with this any longer. So, you know, we just going to have to let it play out, pray for the people, patch them up, and, you know what I'm saying, get back in the fight. So
well, I'm just going to add something, and I just want to clear the air. I'm the type of coworker that's going to tell on you. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to put my hand on the Bible. I'm going to tell her. And they already know this up front. I'm not worried about you not doing nothing. Like, for real. I'm gonna tell on you. I'm gonna put my hand on the Bible when they call me in and do my guarantee statement, and a microphone gonna look just like this in my face. Yes, I saw it. Yes, I'm telling you. Because you know what?
Get stitches.
I'm not going to the federal prison for y'all.
Well, Miss Morganfield or Miss Butler, y'all have anything to say about this before we move on?
I got one more thing, Devin, to add in.
Hold on, Miss Butler, anything? Okay.
I pray for my leaders simply because, like you said, you guys are police officers, but you're my family. So I constantly pray for you guys, even though you guys are of the Afro-American descent, because you guys are police officers in a time such as this. People, when they're ignorant, it's just all about hating police. I have nieces, I have nephews. I pray for my nephews. I have brothers. I pray for them on a daily basis that God cover them. As well as a Black female, being a single female, most of the time I'm traveling by myself. I finally got over the fear of guns, went and did it the right way. And wherever I go, my two sons, Smith and Wesson, is there with me. I know we have to watch as well, but we also have to take action. So that's my 50 cents on it.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for praying. Mark, you had something else you want to say before we move?
Yeah, I was just kind of commenting on what the pastor said. Being an African-American police officer, it comes down to this. Being vocal has never been a problem for me. A lot of times we are stereotyped as troublemakers or problem children. And the worst thing that we experience as being vocal police officers, African-American males, is this. You have the guys that when they're in trouble, they want you to speak for them. Right. But when it comes time, I'm just, hey, I'm not afraid, man. It's what it is. But they want you to speak up and you challenge the authority. But at the end of the day, man, you have to stand for something.
Right.
Yes.
If you don't stand for it, what's the purpose of serving? If you cannot serve your community as a man, I've been in situations where I didn't know if I was going to eat. I've been in families where my lights got turned off. And one of the biggest things I always preach to our administration is we need not conflict resolution. We need cultural diversity because you cannot police what you don't understand. If you haven't had your lights turned off or you haven't know where your next meal is going to come, you can't police that community because you cannot understand it.
No. Right. You are correct.
But this is great. Maybe we have to come back and talk about this from a professional perspective.
Yeah.
Well, let me say this before we move on. Let me say this last piece. And also people have to remember that like Mark said, you have to speak up when you see injustices on the job. And from my experience, I've seen Mark speak up. I've seen Mark file lawsuits. I've sued the police department because of injustices. And Mike fought with me right on the side. And so, in the words of Bernie Mac, I ain't no punk. I stand up. If it's wrong, I'm standing up. I'm speaking up regardless. And so, it's important for people to realize that we have officers, like Will said earlier, we have officers on the job, but our hands are tied right now. Yeah. We can only speak up and do so much. And I got to take care of my family. I got to eat, but I can only do so much. But I am very vocal about racism on the job. I'm vocal about homophobia on the job. I'm vocal about sexism on the job. I'm vocal, and people know this. And so we are doing our job, being vocal about these issues within the police department, trying to make it better. So we're not sitting back just going along with the flow. We are causing chaos. We are being boisterous, and we are making an impact within the police department and where we work. And that's a whole nother story, but we may need to come back and revisit this, but let's get started. I'm ready.
Well, for everybody tuning in with us, tonight's topic is, let's put a face on it. We're going to put a face on individuals that's been affected and infected with the coronavirus. And we have survivor stories tonight. And so we have a collection of individuals that volunteered to come on to share their story to help us raise awareness. Even though all 50 states are entering into a phase to open, we still have to be cautious to understand that this virus has not disappeared, and it's not going to disappear like your sitting president say, and it's not going to go away. And a lot of people don't seem to take this matter serious because they don't know someone personally that's been infected with coronavirus. And no matter how much we urge them, we want to put a face so that people can hear you guys' testimony tonight. So we'll just go around and we'll do ladies first to come in, and we'll give everybody about a good 1 to 2 minutes to share so we can move this topic, and then we're going to engage you all with some questions. Is that okay? So we'll start with you, Cachet.
So before you begin, we begin with Ms. Cachet. Right now in Shelby County, we have 4,700 confirmed cases of coronaviruses. We have 100.
Time 10.
Yeah,
multiply
that's
that
reported.
Time 10.
Reported, and we have 107 deaths here in Shelby County, and we just surpassed our 100,000 mark here in the United States. We have 102,000 individuals who have died from corona here in the United States. So just give us your story, what happened, how'd you deal with it, and you have the microphone, Ms. Morgan.
Kind of like maybe when you found out, and what happened after you found out that made you go get tested, and how did it affect you? How did the virus affect you? Cachet.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cachet Morganfield. I found out that I had it. Well, I got sick around March 23rd. That's when the symptoms took place. And when I went and got tested, it was March 31st. So I had already had, it was like my 7th day when I went and got tested. So
what kind of symptoms did you have?
I had diarrhea. My lower abdomen was like, it was killing me. So I was having lower abdomen pains, diarrhea. And then the next day after diarrhea, I had fever for 6 days straight. When I actually went and got tested, I didn't have fever until that night. So I checked into a hotel. My daughter and I both had corona. So she was affected by it from me. She caught it from being around me. So
how old is your daughter?
My daughter is 16 years old.
Okay.
But it affected her differently. She just lost her sense of taste and smell. And she had fever maybe one day. But for myself, I never lost my sense of taste or smell, but everything tastes like metal, if that makes sense. I didn't have any energy. I could not breathe. To be honest with you, it was days where I couldn't make it to the bathroom on time, if you know what that looks like. I just couldn't do, I was really helpless. So my daughter really took care of me in my experience. Like, she had it, but she wasn't really affected like I was. So she took care of me. That's the only way I feel like I really made it. All those times, so by the time I got my results, it was in day 9. And I still didn't feel like things shifted to normal until about day 18 or 19. So after, we got our test results, we were in quarantine. My daughter called the paramedics one morning because I couldn't hardly breathe, but I didn't really want to be bothered. And the Holy Spirit told me, do not go to the hospital. So when God speaks, I listen. I didn't go to the hospital. They came to get me, but instead they took my daughter. They asked if my daughter could go because she had been exposed to it. So they took her to Lavonne, and 2 days later, we found out she was positive. So we quarantined for 2 weeks, and how we cope with it, we had a blow dryer. We had elderberry that we put like elderberry drops in our orange juice. We had Vicks Vapor rubbing on our chest. Just different type of medicines for like, Tylenol, Tylenol, fever. And then we had mucus medicine. We just did everything that we could do to cope with it from home. And I just started, like spitting up mucus. As I spit up more and more mucus, I felt so much better. And around day 17, 18, that's when things started feeling normal again. My taste started to come back. And I was just grateful to make it through that, because it was just horrible. And there's just something that I wouldn't wish on anyone, not even an enemy. But so as far as people taking it, go ahead.
Were you able to trace where you may have contracted it?
I believe it was at a grocery store, because at that point, I hadn't even been to church. Our church had shut down, only doing virtual. services, but I wasn't even going to church after that. I remember going in stores. I was in so many different stores for 3 days looking for tissue. So I was going to Lowe's, I was going to Kroger, every store you could think of. I was just driving from Carterville to Cordova, just back and forth looking for a tissue. And I was in and out of stores, so I really don't know what store it came from. But I do know.
Did you have a mask on?
Not at that time, I did not.
Okay.
I did not have a mask or gloves. But
Okay.
so I know it could have come from a basket, me carrying a basket. And then I was kind of learning about it, as the pandemic really hit, you get on our clothes. And I remember having a jacket on that came around my neck. And I remember like just being in a store, knowing that I couldn't touch my face. I wanted to scratch my face. So I remember one day taking my jacket, scratching my face with my jacket. So I don't know if it came from my clothes or just a basket, but I do remember going in stores for essentials.
Lavonne, you got the floor.
I didn't know that that's what I had. It hit me all of a sudden. I woke up one day, and I was so weak. I was at work, and at the time I worked from home. For my lunch period, I set my alarm, and I took a nap for lunch. And I think that was maybe my biggest mistake, because once I woke up and had to go back to work, I really didn't have any strength. By the time I got off of work that day, I was pretty much done. I got off at 5:30, and by 6:15, I was on the phone with my boss, letting her know that I would not be at work the next day. And that's even with working from home. That was on a Wednesday. It was early March, and back then we didn't have any information as to where we could go for testing. I called my doctor, and they told me, well, you can't come into the office. That was on a Thursday. Then they called me back that Thursday afternoon and gave me the instructions on where I needed to send a text to. And I ended up going down to Tiger Lane to get tested. The test was painful. I almost swung on the woman, even though she was coming through the car window. And then they had the audacity to ask me, could they do the second nostril? I'm like, you done subjected me to this pain. You might as well do it and get it over with. The thing about me is I'm sort of a private person, and I'll keep things to myself. So there was only one person that knew once I got my test results back on that Sunday morning that I was sick with COVID-19, and that was my brother. Outside of that, none of my family knew. My mother didn't know. And actually, my mother didn't find out until the health department had cleared me and told me that I could come out of quarantine. It felt like I had an elephant sitting on my chest, and with asthma, it didn't make it any better. So I drank plenty of hot water with lemon. I used Mucinex. I didn't have appetite. Like Cachet said, the diarrhea. The thing that I didn't have throughout the course was a fever. I at no time had a fever, but the pain, the long nights, the lack of sleep, the lack of being able to breathe. Then I had the health department that was calling me 2 and 3 times a week, making sure that I was still in quarantine and hadn't been around anybody. When I came out of it, there was still some things that I had to go through, because eventually the doctor said, when I kept telling him I was still having breathing issues, that I had pneumonia in both lungs. So I had to go through that. They still wouldn't let me come in the office. However, they did call in some prescriptions for me. So eventually I bounced back. And from time to time, if I talk for a long period of time, I might begin to have that old folk cough, that dry cough. But I'm pretty much back to normal at this point.
So your pre-existing condition was asthma that you had.
Right.
Ms. Morganfield, did you have a pre-existing condition
No,
that you can discuss or disclose?
I didn't have one.
Okay. All right. Did you finish your story, Butler?
I am.
Okay.
So we'll move to you gentlemen next. Mike, Will.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Mark Lesure. I'm kind of different. I take care of my parents. My dad's 80 and my mama's 78. And
Okay.
of course, I work homicide here in Memphis, and I'm exposed to dead bodies and just probably the worst stuff that you could probably deal with. So I tried to err on the side of caution and say, I don't want to take this home to my parents. So I volunteered to go get tested. I never had any symptoms at all. None. I went down to Tiger Lane, and of course, my brother's a fireman. So he kind of prepared me for the test, but I've been in the military, so I figured, I'm a tough guy, I can handle it. And I closed my eyes, but when I saw the swab that they were going to stick in my nose, I was like, okay. And of course, she goes in, she does it. And then when I look at her take it out, I see how long it is again. And I'm like, whoo, I'm glad that's done. She said, I'll give you a minute because I have to do the other one. I was like, excuse me, I got to foul mouth sometime. I was like, no, go ahead and get it done now. And I still, once I took the test, I went into quarantine, didn't have any symptoms at all. And 3 days later, out of nowhere, I couldn't smell anything. Everything I drank tasted weird. And then all of a sudden the fever came. But thankfully, and I know I'm gonna get in trouble when I say this, but my girlfriend, her daughter's a doctor, and she called me and told me to take Tylenol, Mucinex, drink plenty of fluids. And I did that for 5 days. I had a temperature from anywhere from 101 to 105. And like she said, I had no energy to get up to use the bathroom. It has a psychological effect on you. It was more like my body was saying, no, you really got to use the bathroom, but don't get up. Just lay here. And I endured it. Of course, being a military guy, the first thing they do is, you're being trained that if you lay down, you're going to lose the fight. So yeah. I got up and I did that, but, I had to just deal with it. But my main concern was once I found out that I was positive, did I infect anybody in my office? And thankfully, nobody in the office that works with me got it. But the sad part about it, that we had nothing in place. I had people calling me, telling me that they were aware that I tested positive. I'm like, how did that happen? And that's a concern. That's an issue for me. And as of, I tell people, I went through it for a week, but that Thursday night, I went back to the old school. I ate some chicken noodle soup, and I got up on Good Friday, and it was indeed a Good Friday because my fever was broken, and everything ever since Good Friday, I've been good. The main thing that I like to stress to people is, if they're people who are aware that you're positive, when you come walking towards them, they want to pull their mask up. And the first thing I tell them is, you shouldn't be afraid of me because I tested. What about the people that you don't know about? Those are the ones you need to be concerned with. And of course, everybody wants to try to pinpoint where you got it. But if you're a public servant, I'm all over the city from one scene to the next, and then running errands for my parents, taking care of my own personal affairs. You cannot pinpoint it. You just have to be now, after I've endured it, I kind of deal with it differently. I kind of look at it, from the standpoint of, I spent some years in the 90s in Korea, and they were walking around with masks on, and I was like, that would never happen in our country. But I also thought during my lifetime, I would never see a Black president. But, it's just now you have to just be focused on the fact that this thing's here. Just because the numbers are going down doesn't mean it's gone. So just err on the side of caution. Of course, being out here in the public, we have to have protective gear and all the time. Just my advice to anyone is just be more cautious, because at worst case scenario, you do not want to take this home to your family.
You said something that I heard a lot of people say on social media, that the coronavirus wants you to lay down. It wants you. It's almost like a alien or something that's invaded your body, and if you lie down, then it gets to do what it want to do. Kind of like take you out. Yes. And then you have to fight through it to get up. I heard that more than once, that you say your mind was telling you to get up, but your body was like, nah, just lay here.
And exactly. And of course, during that time, you started, when something affects you, you want to read about it. And I started kind of piecing it together. And by no means am I a doctor. But when you start looking at it and you start looking at what's happening to you, you start getting the psychological effects of laying still. And I think that's where the breathing and the pneumonia sets in. And it's the people that are going to these respirators are probably on them because you feel like you're drowning and there's nothing you can do about it. And you know, so that's just a theory that I came up with. There's no scientific proof to that. But psychologically, I mean, I had no energy. And every time I would get up to do something, my body was basically saying, man, just lay here and get some rest.
So you were asymptomatic in the very beginning?
No, sir. I had, like I said, Davin, I had no symptoms. I went down there basically because, like I said, I live in a house with my parents. At 80 and 77, and you know, my dad is diabetic and my mom's got congestive heart failure. So quite naturally, I'm thinking if something happens to them, I mean, it's going to take them out quickly.
Right.
So I actually had to go down and really kind of talk to people into saying, hey, look, I'm a first responder. And I'm out here on critical scenes, incidents where people are dying. You know, and I hate to say this or sound morbid, but as a person is taking their last breath, who knows what's coming out of that particular, you know, person. So where I got exposed at, I don't know. But like I said, I volunteered to do it. And then after I took the test, that's when I started to have the symptoms.
Got it.
Mike
Reverend Williams.
Well, it was interesting how I found out. I have asthma, and a lot of pollen was falling and all of that kind of stuff. So I take allergy medicine every day, and once a year I have to go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor for my allergies, and he said, "Well, let me test you for COVID-19," and he did. And he tested me for COVID-19, and test came back positive. I think my nose maybe ran a little bit, because I'm thinking that's my sinuses again, because of my allergies. But I never experienced any of the things that everybody else experienced. I never was confined to bed. I was never sick. So I was quarantined for the 14 days. While I was quarantined, I was raking leaves and cleaning up my yard and all kinds of things. I think I raked 150 bags of leaves.
You counted all of them?
Huh?
You counted all of them?
Yeah, because I got a lot of trees. So, and my wife's a police officer, and I have a 9-year-old daughter in the house. So we had to quarantine in the house. Thank God the house is big enough to whereas my daughter was upstairs, my wife was in the bedroom, and I was in another place. And when it came time for me to test again, and yeah, man, when I saw that swab, I was like, Jesus Christ, you're gonna stick that in my nose? I took the test a second time. I came back positive again.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had to get quarantined all over again and go through the same process. Well, while I was off, still wasn't sick. Stayed at the house, stayed out of the public. You know, anytime I tried to go anywhere, my wife was like, nah, you got to sit down, rest your nerves. You can't get out there. Okay, very much. So I tested a third time. Once again, got to get the swab and all of that other good stuff. And thank God that time I tested negative. Well, I was very concerned because I'm 60. And I knew that it was affecting older people in a way that a lot of them were having issues. But I don't have a lot of the underlying illnesses, though, fortunately. So, you know, what I found was it affected people differently, regardless of age, regardless of, you know, where you live or all of that good stuff. So the third time I tested negative, and I eventually ended up going back to work, but I had to shut my office down for 2 weeks, my whole building, because I am the president of the Police Association. Police officers come in there all the time. I think we had over 100 and some officers that had to be quarantined throughout this process. We had about 30 to 40 that actually tested positive. We've had officers that have been in intensive care, all the way from intensive care to nothing. So we quarantined, and then I had to go to a different type of setup in my office to whereas we don't have individuals just coming down there. And now officers can't just come down to the association. We prefer you call first. A lot of times if they need something, we have them stand outside, believe it or not, the front door. Because I also have to be cognizant that I have civilians working for me, other ladies and different things like that. So it's incumbent upon me to make sure that they're okay as well. So they came in, decontaminated our building, and we've been under COVID-19 operations ever since then. But, thank God, I haven't had any symptoms, I believe, afterwards. And we just kind of pushing along. But I make sure that I'm wearing my mask when I go out. I do make sure that I try to have as least contact with individuals that I can. My wife and my daughter tested, and both of them tested negative. That's good. Haven't had it. So you can even live in the house with somebody, and if you take the right precautions, you can prevent them from getting it. But my wife was wiping everything down all the time.
So you are the definition of asymptomatic.
Well, no, I probably had some minor symptoms, now that I look back on it, because I do remember my nose was running. I do remember, feeling a little awkward, you know what I mean? But I was never confined to the bed or diarrhea or, any of that stuff. I never had. And that's probably what prompted me to go to the doctor for my allergies. And it may not have been my allergies. It may have been COVID-19, but I'm thinking because I have allergy problems and my nose is running, that's what it was. But I didn't experience a lot of the other stuff because I got a thermometer, was taking the temperature and, all of that. So
I got a good question for you, Mike. And when you get on, I got one for you too, Will. So Mike, I know we were doing this at the same time. We were steaming. I steamed today.
Man, let me tell you something. My daughter had a diffuser sent to my house. Man, it's to have grown kids, baby. Let me tell you. She's like, look outside the door. I look outside the door, and I got a brand new diffuser. Then I was doing the steaming with the.
So for people that don't know, the whole ritual with it and the belief in behind of nature's healing power. Just share that with them, if you will.
Well, I would take oranges and lemons and sea salt, and I'd boil it, and I'd actually just put my head over the steam, because what they were saying was, just like Cachet said,
you probably caught it.
Mucus, the better she felt. So it's a matter of trying to keep your passageways open, trying to keep everything out of your lungs, because when I would get over the steam and I'd do it for about 15, 20 minutes or something to that effect, I could feel that it was clearer, you know what I mean? And I started taking those types of precautions. So I was doing that like once or twice a day. And I had the diffuser that was sitting in the corner of the room that I was in, and I did it most of the day. And I had like lemon / something in it. It's got all of these different scents, but it puts the steam out in the room. So, I was definitely into that. But I take vitamins daily.
So, David, he's a pessimist. So
zinc, I'm trying all those things people talking about, man, because I'm like, man, this stuff gonna get me.
Right.
I had zinc, I had all of the stuff, the citrus, anything that I could find that would counteract this, I definitely took advantage of.
Well, come on, Pastor Will Horn, in case you all don't know, Will's story went viral when he finally came home. And I think you and I were the beginning advocate on social media, encouraging people to take this virus serious. I think we were taking turns on Facebook, ranting and raving and venting and get mad and David said I'm corona crazy and I won't go out the house. So when you became sick, I was very alarmed and I was very worried about you. Then you just disappeared and nobody knew where you were until you came back. So we ready for you.
Well, this whole thing has been really something, and it's been really interesting to hear different experiences because clearly it has affected people in very different ways. For me, it was pretty bad. Actually, it was really bad. At the beginning of March, the very first week of March was spring break for us at school. And my best friend and a couple of other guys, we, took a little road trip. We just, drove down to Austin, which is about 3 hours from Dallas, just to hang out for the weekend. And so we went to dinner. Everything was still open. There was not a big, push to close anything. Everything was normal. And so we went and we, really had a good time. And we came back at the end of the weekend. And it was just a few days later, maybe 3 days later, I started feeling really sick. It felt like the flu. You know how the flu just kind of hits you all at one time? Mm-hmm. And so my body started aching. I started to get a really, really bad headache. And so I went to the doctor's office. We have a doctor's office right on our campus. So I went to the doctor and they gave me a flu test and 15 minutes, flu test came back negative. And at that moment, something on the inside of me got really kind of, I don't know if I want to say nervous, but I was really confused because I was sure I had the flu. And so the nurse practitioner said, well, Will, the symptoms that you're exhibiting, are very similar to coronavirus. And so we want to give you that test as well. And so they swabbed me for coronavirus. And I got to say, everybody's talking about those swabs. They're not lying to you. It's terrible. I felt like they were swabbing my brain, but it was terrible. And so they swabbed me for coronavirus. And so they, told me to take Tylenol and everything for the fever and the body aches and so forth. And so I went home and I was thinking that in a few days I'll be all right. And so I went home and maybe it was, I'm trying to think, that was March the 12th. I think I went to the doctor the first time. And so I went home and just got progressively worse. I mean, it got to the point where I literally, my body hurt so bad that just trying to get out of the bed and walk to the bathroom was like the hardest thing I could do. And so I started to get a little nervous, and I'm 50 years old. I'm a former Marine and all of that kind of stuff. But it got so bad, I called my mama. I'm like, listen, I don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? And she said, you need to go back to the doctor. So I did. And that was probably the most difficult drive I have ever had. I hurt so bad just trying to drive to the doctor's office was excruciating. And I remember getting to the parking lot, which was just right across the street from the doctor's office. And it took everything out of me just to walk across the street. And by this time, they had shut the doctor. You couldn't just walk into the doctor's office. You had to call on the phone. Somebody had to come and get you and bring you in. And so I called, and it took them just a couple minutes to get to the front to get me. But in that time, I literally had to sit down on the ground because I just had no strength. And so they finally came and got me. Of course, they got on all of this gear. They got all of this ventilation and everything in the doctor's office. And they get in and they asked me a few questions about what was going on. My fever was still high and everything. And nurse practitioner, she looked at me. She said, Will, you need to go to the hospital. Like now, you need to go to the hospital. And so thankfully, my campus is only about 2 miles away from downtown Fort Worth. And that's where the main big hospital is. And so I drove that 2 miles to the hospital. And man, when I tell you, this was one of the most harrowing experiences I ever had. I parked my car in the garage and I walked over to where they had this triage area, which was outside. They had all of these tents up. They wouldn't even let anybody into the hospital. And so these nurses, you know, they took my temperature. They asked me all these questions. I had to get interviewed by a doctor on an iPad before they would even allow me into the hospital. And so after they went through all of that and said, yeah, you need to be seen, I was so weak at this point, I couldn't even walk. So they put me in a wheelchair, and she started wheeling me to the door, to the emergency room. Well, I don't know if it was emergency room or not, but it was the entrance into the hospital. So a police officer met us at the door, opened the door for me to be wheeled in, and he escorted us down the hall to the emergency department. And y'all, when I tell you this was one of the worst experiences I've ever had in my life, when we were going down the hallway, the nurse started yelling down the hall, clear the hall, clear the hall. Everybody clear the hallway. Yo, I was so sick and they were so afraid of me. Mind you, this is the beginning of March. They were so afraid that all of the doctors and nurses and orderlies, everybody had to clear out. And it was like in that moment, I felt like the leper, like back in the Old Testament when they would have to say, you know, unclean, unclean, and announce that they were a leper. And I just started crying, like, this is not happening to me. So they wheeled me all the way back. They put me in this isolation room and they started an IV. They started doing all of this kind of stuff. And they sent me to get a CAT scan on my lungs. And so I did the CAT scan. They brought me back to the room and the doctor comes in and he starts talking to me. He asked me, he said, you know, Will, he said, are you a gambler? And I was like, well, no. And I was really kind of perplexed. I was like, why you ask me that? He said, well, the reason I asked you if you were a gambler is because we took a look at your x-ray and we see pneumonia there, and it's in the same pattern as people that have coronavirus. And he said, because of that, we're not going to be able to let you go home. We have to keep you here in the hospital. He said, I asked if you were a gambler because 90% of people that have coronavirus are just fine. Some of them don't even have symptoms. He said, but there are going to be other people that get very, very sick, like you, that we have to put in the hospital. And he said, and then there's a smaller percentage of people that will die. They will not leave the hospital. And so I'm sitting here and I'm trying to process all of this. And I'm thinking, my God, what is about to happen to me? They said, you cannot go home. And so from there, they sent another team of people to come and get me. They had this whole protocol in the hospital for people that have the virus. Now, mind you, I took my coronavirus test over a week ago. I still don't have results. So they don't know if I have it or not. The only reason they admitted me is because they saw the pneumonia that looked like what coronavirus patients have. And so they wheeled me through the hospital again, and here we go. Everybody has to part. You know, they had a special elevator for me to go up, and they took me up to this special ICU that was completely isolated. Like, it was only people that they suspected had coronavirus. The rooms were very dark, very secluded, and all of that. They put me in this room, and I was in this ICU for 5 days. My family could not come see me. Nope, I was in this room by myself. My doctors, my nurses, all of them had on so much PPE from head to toe. I never saw one face while I was in the hospital. Like, to this day, I couldn't tell you who took care of me because they had on so much stuff. And so I was in writhing pain. I had never been in so much pain in my life. I had a fever for 3 weeks straight. Like, literally, my fever would not come down. When they got me in there, they were not only concerned about my lung function, but they were concerned about me getting blood clots. And so they had put the IV in. I was taking the Zithromax through the IV. They were giving me all the Tylenol. I couldn't eat. They gave me a shot in my stomach because of they were concerned I was going to get the blood clots. And that was the worst experience I'd ever had. And so, you know, it was a bad, bad situation. So I was there for 5 days, but here was the tripped out part. I actually felt sicker after they let me out of the hospital. They let me go because they said, there's nothing else that we can do for you in the hospital. We have run all the protocols that we know how to run. The only thing you can do now is to try to maintain and deal with your symptoms when you go home. So I was released. I still had pneumonia. I still had a temperature. I still had body aches. I had lost 15 pounds. And there were times, literally, I would just sit in a tub of hot water with Epsom salt and just cry. I'm 50 years old. I was in the Marine Corps and I cried. I was in so much pain. And y'all saw that live video that I did. I did that the day after I got out of the hospital. And it was just, again, to tell people, y'all be careful, man. You know, be careful out there. And I didn't really realize I was going to tell my story the way that I did, but I'm glad I did, because it helps for people to understand that this thing is real, you know, and it bothers me now. And I want to even give this piece, because I know we kind of need to wrap up.
No, you're good. We're going to keep rolling. If anyone needs to leave, just let us know, and then we just keep going with the stories. We're going to keep rolling. Go ahead.
But here's the thing, you know, and I'm thankful for my godson. You know, he's a manager at a hotel. He quarantined me there. I didn't have anything to worry about. He took care of me and all of that kind of stuff. I'm grateful to God for that. But being isolated like that did a number on my psyche that I am still struggling with. Like today, I still have to take medicine for anxiety and to be able to sleep at night, because it hit me so hard. And it's like, once you've had that kind of trauma, it's like, what if this happens again?
Wow.
Because we don't know if this means you have immunity. We don't know if this means you can't get it again. Right. And so it's like every time I go out, you know, I'm looking at these people. I'm like, y'all don't have a mask on, you know, you know, you don't want to go through this. And certainly I don't want to get it again. And so there's this whole mental health aspect of it that I didn't even realize that I was going to have to deal with. And so I'm working as hard as I can to get back to 100%, you know, physically, and doing what I need to do as well to get back to where I need to be emotionally and mentally. But, you know, this was rough. And for me, and I need to say this part too, as bad as it was for me, it still doesn't scratch the surface for some of the people that had to go on a ventilator. Yeah. I fought. They came into the room twice and asked me, did I want to go on oxygen? And I think, just like Brother Mark was saying, it's just like, once you get to that point where you start saying, you know what, let me lay down, let me relax, let me get on the oxygen. You know what I'm saying? You just start to slip away. And so I was just like, I don't want the oxygen. And so I fought as hard as I could to breathe on my own. And so all of that, all of the residual, all of the anxiety, all of that kind of stuff is big fallout from this. And so I'm just, you know, the reason that I come on and tell my story is because I feel like God spared me. I feel like I'm left here to be able to admonish other people, you know what I'm saying, to really take care of themselves. You know, not only was I sick, but my mother was sick. My mother is in her late 60s, you know, and she really struggled. She didn't have to go into the hospital, you know, but my thought is, oh my God, what if she had? What if she had to go through what I went through? And it's like, I understand why some people succumb to this. I'm a runner, I'm healthy, I'm strong, all of that kind of stuff. And I think those are things that played into me being able to kind of make it through it. But if I had had high blood pressure or bad asthma or something like that, I understand how I could have died, because I felt like I was about to die. And even though I was healthy, you know, so I just want to say, you know, again, for the people that have an ear to really pay attention to this, I'm telling you, I wouldn't swear this on my worst enemy. And you don't want to get this because you don't want to go through it. And certainly you don't want to give it to a parent or a grandparent or something like that, and then have to wonder, was it me, the one, you know, that caused, you know, Big Mama to not be well right now? So we just got to take care of ourselves.
So you said something really interesting, and this is for the panel. Is anyone else dealing with anxiety or psychological residual from having the coronavirus? Would you want to share about it, Cachet? Let me take you out.
You're on mute. You're on mute. There you go.
I got you.
Well, I really have not been around anyone since March. My daughter and I are still in the hotel, and I went out one time. I had to go to the studio, and that was about it. But they had us spread it out. But when I first went into Walmart to go grocery shopping one night, when I first got out the hotel, the first week I stayed in, the very next week I went in to get groceries, and I felt like I had kind of like an anxiety about it. So when I pulled up, I'm like, okay, I just try to just calm myself down and pray. So when I went in, I actually had someone to run up on me and hug me.
Woo.
And you know,
Oh
you've
my
been away from
God.
people, you have to be hugged.
Me too. At a funeral.
Ooh, I know they meant well. It was like, I just saw your live. But I was like, and I didn't want to, I just kind of resisted. I was like, I'm not hugging. So it's like now when I go out, it's like I always have a mask on, gloves most of the time. It's only to get groceries and come back in. But it's like I had a cousin, I had to just like do a drive-by birthday, like a virtual birthday drive-by. And I got out the car, you know, everybody doing virtual hugs and air hugs. And I had a cousin that ran up on me, and I was like, I'm not hugging right now.
Right.
But you know, people don't think it's serious.
They
So
don't get
I
it.
almost cried because he literally, when I walked back toward them, he ran and like hugged me real tight. And I just felt like I was gonna break down because I'm like, I'm not ready for that. Like mentally, really, you are traumatized. And then you're traumatized to go around people because it's like, I know they say we can't catch it, but I don't really believe that.
We don't
like
know.
If you catch the flu or strep throat, you can catch this over. But I'm like, I'm not ready for all of that right now. So it's like, I really want to tell everybody, like, it's so real. Really be cautious and careful, even as to how you approach people who've had it, because you don't know where they are psychologically. Like, it's a scary thing. And then running up on somebody is not good. Hugging, like, I don't want to hug nobody right now, except my daughter, because she's the one that's always with me, you know. But like, she hasn't even been out. So it's like now, like, I'm a makeup artist. I've been telling everybody I'm not working maybe until the end of June or July. But the way things looking, I might not work until 2021.
Right.
So, and so it's just like, it's keeping me in a place where I'm like, I know I'm gonna have to get out soon, but I don't feel like it's safe to get out. And I really feel, okay, we're gonna have the summer. The heat may help us. By the time fall hit, I think it's gonna get worse. So I just look at people barbecuing, having parties, and I'm like, what are y'all doing? What are y'all thinking about? Grown people, what are you doing?
Right.
Like, it's real, and they don't take it serious. So it's just it's real. It's very traumatizing. My daughter, she's really okay. She hasn't, it didn't traumatize her, and like I said, it didn't really affect her. Kind of like you were saying, Mike, my daughter was up on the phone with her friends. She was taking care of me. She had to bathe me. You know, she was just making sure everything was okay, making sure I was okay. So I like it, like y'all said, it does affect people differently.
What about you, Butler? Lavonne?
It has. Right now, I think I've been up since like 1:45 this morning. Don't sleep at night. Don't sleep all night.
Yeah.
Because I live alone and I work from home, I've gotten into the habit. If you look now, I'm at Tammy and them house, and I just come and I sit in their backyard after work or just to get out the house. They're in the house. I can enter their house, or I don't even have to go in the house. They know I'm out here, and I just come out here and to get out of the house, to get into the air. They're in the house, so I deem that being around people. To break up that being alone so much.
Yeah.
My mother is all the way now, well, my mother's in Florida now, but I haven't seen her. Like I said, she didn't know I was sick until a month after I had gotten my test results. So yeah, it's a lot of nights of crying. Will said he sat in a hot tub of water. I stayed in the hot shower until I looked like a raisin in the sun. So what's gotten me through it and what continues to get me through it is prayer.
Brother Mark.
Well, yeah, of course, you know, everybody always feels like, you know, we're the police and we're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be able to endure all this toughness. After I got well, you know, my first fear was taking the test again. That was my first. But the second was, you know, with the job that I do, going back so fast, would it come back to me again, or would I give it to someone else? So I just made a conscious decision to say, you know what? Because I found out that it did have some more physical effects. I tried to go outside and walk in the yard, and it's like couldn't even hardly breathe. So I said, okay, you know, this is, you know, I'm getting towards the end of my career. I got some time, so I stayed off 47 days. But I did that not so much for myself, but mentally, I needed to make sure that I'm prepared to get back to work, dealing with the things that I have to deal with. Yeah. Then being conscious of watching the people around me, because I remember my first day back to work, and you know, they're screening everybody coming in. And as soon as I come around the corner, they go, it's like, you know, they go, oh, it's him, you know, and everybody's like, and they're running up to you, but they're running up to you with the thermometers going, and they're like standing off, and you know, you like, instead of them, you know, everybody else is like this here, but the person standing like 20 feet from me, and like with an extension, like here, that. And I'm like, guys, okay, and believe it or not, I can laugh about that now, but at the time, you know, it's like the first reaction that, and like I said, I've been in law enforcement 36 years. My first reaction is,
you want to curse then?
No. Your son knows how, you know, I'm one of them guys that's kind of physical sometimes when it's necessary. But the thing of it is this. Here we are, we're public service. We're being exposed to this, and a lot of us are not conscious of what it is and how it affects you. But then when you find out somebody's positive that has endured it and overcome it, you're treating them as if we're an outcast. And then it kind of plays with you like, you know, does everybody see me like this? You know, so then you kind of want to be a recluse, and you kind of like, I remember walking in the office the first day, the looks, you know, it's like, they're like, nobody really said, welcome back. They were like, well, you here, well, you know, it's not business as normal, because I work in a closed-in environment. You know, I mean, there's 15 of us up there in that homicide office, and it's a small, the cubicles are pretty close, but it was warming that a civilian that works up there with us, she was the first person to come around the corner and say, I'm glad that you're back. I'm glad that you made it. And then you know that there are still some good human beings around. Because, you know, being in law firm, we're judgmental and stereotypical. And it's like, hey, guys, I endured it. I made it through. So let's embrace me as if I would embrace you if you've endured something.
Right.
You know, I'm the kind of person where if I know somebody's going through, like people say to me, you care too much. How can you care too much as a police officer when you're dealing with people losing family members? How can I care too much?
Yeah.
I don't mind going out at 1:30 in the morning or to talk to a husband that's lost a wife, because I lost my brother 7 years ago, and it's people always say it gets better with time. It depends on the kind of relationship you have with that person.
Good point.
Because, you know, and it doesn't get better. You kind of learn how to deal with it, but when it's, you know, those special times, you know, my brother was one of them flamboyant guys, like to put, you know, he had the curly hair, all the flashy rings, the flashy clothes, but we call my brother the end, because if we had a function, you knew it was getting close to the end when he showed up. So we just nicknamed him the end. And when you're at those functions now, you're looking for him to walk in and they don't show up.
Yeah.
So those are my encouraging words to everybody. We made it. Let's educate ourselves and put everybody else in the know. So this doesn't, you know, it's not over.
Right.
This is just the beginning. We're scratching the surface.
Right.
And I'll leave y'all with one quote I learned in the military as a policeman when I was stationed in Korea. They used to always say, stay alert, stay alive, and look out for the other guy. Because, you know, at that time, we thought it was like a little catchy catchphrase, but right now, that's how I'm living.
Right.
In the United States. Stay alert, stay alive, look out for the other guy. It's crazy.
So before we bring you in, Mike, I just want to share something up, lighten up the mood. Y'all heavy. So, well, I work in the building. I work in corrections, and so in my office, and we have a big sign. We do the temperature check, and you have to get a wristband before you come to work, and everybody have to wear a face mask. And you have individuals that come into your area. It's mandatory that we wear masks. They don't want to wear masks. So guess what? I don't let them in my building. I don't care who it is. Wear your mask. And I have a few extras. Get out. So they called on me. I was like, okay, he didn't have his mask on. He can't come in here. And the whole thing is that it's for my protection and it's for your protection. And then I got a 2 cough minimum. 2 cough minimum. You gotta get out. So if my wife cough, that's one. So I'm just like mood up. But you know, let me tell you, I'm so serious. I hadn't hugged my son since March. When we come around, we like this.
Wow.
We got a routine when we walk in the house. Okay, let me give you my routine. So we come in the house, we got our mask on. We take our shoes off at the door. We got Lysol at the door. Whatever we got in our hand, we get naked right there. Everything come off. Then we still walk around the house with the mask on. We go to the sink.
TMI.
Shut up. Wash our hands. After we wash our hands, then I take my mask off. Then I get Lysol. We wipe the keys down, go back to the door, spray our shoes down, spray the doorknob, spray the light in it. Man, like for real, it's crazy. So I was like, I'm not going out because I got to change clothes all over again. So this is the last thing. So my inmates had a joke, right? They were laughing at me because I had the same thing on every day.
That's your mama, Dad.
Miss Clippers wear that shirt every day. These are my Corona clothes. So I have to wear it to work. I come home and I wash it. I can't wear my good clothes because I don't wash my good clothes. I take them to the cleaners. So I said, go to hell, all of y'all. These are my Corona clothes. And Lord knows you don't want me to take this hat off. I haven't had a haircut since March the 1st or something like that, and my little nails. So I am on lockdown. It's like, I'm not going nowhere. Nobody come in our house, period. I really don't go see my mother because of where I work. I'm kind of like you, Mark. So Davian and my sister have to go because I'm in that environment, you know, and they're getting ready, I think, to do mandatory testing on us. And I'm not looking forward to that, but I try my best, you know, like Cachet, to make sure. I don't even go to Kroger's. We order online. I bet not go to Walmart. I'm not going. You hear me? Period.
So Mike, what type of trauma have you experienced during your battle with COVID-19?
Well, you know, I was probably more concerned for my family than me. I think God has truly blessed me. I lived a good life. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to go anywhere, but I'm also a believer that when it's my time, God is going to reach down and touch me and kiss me and bring me on home. You know what I mean? So I don't live in fear. I can't do that. I've been in combat. I've been on the police department 20 years. Do I ever get afraid? Yes, I do. But you have to take that fear and turn it into courage and to push through. I was kind of concerned when I initially found out because, like I said initially, my age, you know, and I know it's been affecting older people. I know young people are just bouncing through this, a lot of them. And then I looked up the statistics, you know, when people think baby's going to get it, I think in the whole United States, maybe 2 babies have died out of 100,000 people. When you talk about 1 to 10 and then 10 to 20, and, you know, but as the numbers go up, as your age go up, the numbers increase as in regards to how many people have succumbed to the coronavirus. So, you know, and I'm, like I said, I'm 60. I was like, wow, Jesus. Oh Lord, you're gonna take, you know, but I'm good, you know. I stay at home. You know, I try not to venture out as much as possible, but because of the nature of my job, everything else, I have to go. I'm on the police department. They ain't gonna let me stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to deal with people. So I just had to kind of start to control the environment that I am in. When I get to work, I go in my office. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I close the door. And if people want me, they have to call me over the intercom or something to that effect.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As least contact with people directly as possible. You know, I probably sanitize my hands more than I ever have in my life. You know, I do all of those things that everybody else is doing. You know, like I said, my wife be around there with the Lysol and the this and the that, doing all that stuff. And but I'm just a firm believer, though, that God has been good, and you can't hide from death, unfortunately. And if God wants you, He's gonna get you. So evidently, He didn't want me. He ain't ready for me yet. I got other things I got to accomplish in life, I guess.
I know that's right.
I just look at that as a blessing.
Well, we before we end, we're gonna let everyone give our audience a nugget or something to that they can take with them after this show, because out of these 100,000 deaths in the United States, 58% are Black folk. Out of the 1,700,000 cases, 52% are Black folks.
Wow.
And so
in some areas, Davian, those numbers are like 80% of the cases, especially like Atlanta, Georgia is one area where African Americans make up 80% of the coronavirus cases, and Alabama, in the South.
Yes.
But go ahead.
And with these new cases arising, we have 16 states. They're up in 16 states, and majority of those states are in the South.
Yeah.
So I would like you all to give our listeners something to go by, because matter of fact, in Texas, they just allowed Texas to have sporting events in Texas with the capacity of 25% of the people. And they're going to allow people to come in stadiums in Texas with masks on and to cheer games on. And so Disney World is about to open July 11th. And so the Boston Marathon has been canceled, but it's about to get really bad. It's about to get serious. So we'll give our listeners something to make them believe this is real, take care of themselves. You have the microphone. We're going to throw it around the room before we get out of here.
Well, the older I get, the more my philosophy on life changes. I've been a leader my whole life. I've been a minister for over 25 years. I pastored for 15 years, and I always made it my business to try to take care of other people, you know, and I thought that was noble. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And to this point, I don't say that I was not supposed to, but I've come to understand that I had prioritized it improperly. And I felt like everybody else was more important. And I've come to understand in my older age that I am actually the most important person in my life.
Hello.
Because I can't take care of you if I don't take care of me first. And so I want to say to people, just as it relates to what's going on in our world right now, and it's so much. I mean, coronavirus right now, and the socio-political things that are going on right now, where are for many people just as potentially lethal as this virus. I would just like to encourage people to kind of go inward, really look at who you are and who God created you to be and what you're supposed to do, and don't throw your life away. Don't shortcut what you're supposed to do and be in the earth because you decided you didn't want to wear a mask, or you were tired of being at home. Your life is more valuable than that. And so I just want you to see yourself as the most important person in your life. Take care of yourself. That's what I got for you.
Go inward. I like that. That shall live again. Miss Morganfield.
I just want to say, everyone, just stay at home. Because I'm saying this, I heard early this year, like when this whole pandemic hit, African Americans, Black people, we immune to it. We can't catch it. So y'all, I'm 37. I believe it. I'm like, I can't catch that. When truth be told, I really believe I had the earlier stage of it in February, because they're saying pink eye was a symptom, and I had pink eye, and flu-like symptoms. So I'm like, well, I can't catch it. You can't. I called it, y'all. Stay at home. You can catch it. It's real, and it's not worth. Like we've been having fun for how long? It's not worth your life.
Look like she froze up a little bit. Butler, you still there?
I'm here. I just would advise people and recommend that you heed the warnings. If we got to be like people in China, like Michael Jackson was back in the day, wearing masks and living in a bubble.
He was smart.
Very smart. At this stage in life, with the things that I've dealt with just in this year, and we're only in the 5th month, be smart. They say free fools, dumb fools. I went to a public school, but I paid attention in class when I needed to.
Yeah.
Heed the signs. If you ain't ugly without a mask, you ain't gonna be ugly with a mask. Put a mask on. If you're a mud duck without a mask, you're gonna be a mud duck with a mask. But please put a mask on to help yourself live.
Now that'll preach.
brother Mark.
How do I follow that?
I don't know. Don't be a mud duck.
Sometimes, some people always say, don't even know if they're an ugly human being or a pretty monster. My thing is, having that experience in the military, of being exposed to different types of gas and nerve agents, and being in Operation Desert Storm, being in those polluted areas, we have to take these things serious. We cannot take it for granted, because life is short, and like Brother Will said, being a public servant, you spend your life serving people, but now that I'm at the end, now I'm starting to think more about what am I going to do for myself. So, and I'm pretty close to retirement, and it just comes like nature. If you're a public servant, you're gonna serve no matter where you go, whether it's church, whether it's at the golf course or anything, any place you go, you're just so accustomed to taking care of other people. But at the end of the day, I go back to when I was in elementary school. We had to learn the words to the greatest love of all. And when you get older, you don't realize that those last 16 words are the most important ones. It says, the greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all.
Good. Apostle Mike Williams.
When I find that guy, I'll let you know. I want to bounce back off of what Will and Mark said. First of all, Will said look inward. I'm going to flip it and say look outward. Not to contrast anything he said, but stop being selfish. You know what I mean? Think about other people. Because a lot of times I find people are being willy-nilly with their life, but it could affect somebody else's life. So look inward, like Will said, but at the same time, look outward to say, I not only need to look out for myself, but I need to look out for my grandmother, for my elderly aunt. I need to look out for my mom or my dad, because I'm out here running around all willy-nilly, but then I come home and I'm dropping stuff all over the place, all kinds of droplets and coughing. Cover your mouth. Wear a mask.
Yeah.
Jesus, you know what I mean? But also to kind of bounce off what Mark said real quickly, you guys hear me all the time say, man, I'm tired. I'm tired. I think I've given a lot, to my city, to my country, to my community. This did make me reflect on, Mike, have you really enjoyed life? I know you've done a lot of things in a lot of places, but what about you? You know what I mean? Yeah. What are some of those things? Don't you want to retire and kind of go fishing and enjoy life and You know, you just bought this beautiful house. Don't you want to just sit in your backyard? You know, you don't want to have accomplished or done all of these things at the end you did. You get to enjoy them, but you done helped everybody else along the way. And oh, you guys heard me earlier. When God want me, God gonna call me, and I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
But until He does, I want to be able to enjoy some of those things that I've worked so hard for all my life and tried to ensure that everybody else was taken care of. So be careful out there, y'all. This is real. It not only can affect you, it can affect other people. And cognizant of that.
Well, I'll say this and I get a last word to Gwen. We did this show because we wanted to show the face of COVID-19 and show people in our community how real this virus is, for those who were not believing it was real. And I know everybody on here personally. I just met Ms. Morganfield, but I've been knowing you guys on here many, many years. And this is hitting home. I know many other people who have been impacted by COVID-19, and I just want our people to realize the severity of this disease. I'm not taking anything away from white America, but it's affecting our people in numbers that are greater than white America. And so we have a lot of inequalities and health equalities that we battle against on a regular in our community. So we have to do what we have to do to take care of our people. And just take it serious, guys. We can always party. We can party next year on the holidays.
Right.
We can, don't worry about the Memorial Day, 4th of July, and all those holidays, Labor Day. We can do that next year. Let's be smart this year. Postpone the parties. Let's postpone turning up and save your money, cook, and put your money in your savings account. We can turn up next year, get on a cruise boat when they get a vaccine.
Ooh.
But right now, we got to take care of ourselves, and let's be smart. And those are my last words, and I throw it to you, Gwen.
Well, you know, that was one of the reasons. That's how we end up on here tonight with Unleashed Thursdays, because we shut our radio show down. Mike, you still doing yours. But we left KWAM running. I told David, I'm not going back. It's over. And so that's how we came up with this. We just reinvented what we do and moved it online. And actually, I love this because I get to see the people that I'm interviewing, people that I'm talking to. I can reach people from all over the world. People on social media can get to see people that we know and interviewing celebrities like Will Horn, and Butler, and Mark, and Mike Williams, and Ms. Morganfield. So, I mean, it's just really good. And you know, I'll tell y'all how really good this show was, because we went over and David and I complaining. So usually he like 801, he's sending me texts, cut it off.
Absolutely.
So we have people that are on the live feed now, and I can see the comments, and they're just really saying thank y'all. People sending up the little crying emojis, that it's been very informative. It helped them maybe better understand. They hashtagging wear masks, and hopefully we can influence somebody that see this show. We're going to put excerpts of clips and we'll send them to you all to share 2-3 minutes of your talking points with your friends and your family. And I just think, I thank God, you know, for your life and for surviving and to be able to tell your story. And we just pray that hopefully somebody is saved, you know, from your testimony. I pray to God right now to touch you all mind and to help you relieve and be relieved from the anxiety and the psychological trauma that, you know, you suffer during your isolation, because I'm isolated, you know, we don't really see anybody. And so to come from a very social life, a social light, and now, you know, we just at home. But this really has been a time to go outward and inward, Mike. I think it's both. It's room for both. And the reflection, it made me cut off a lot of things that I needed to cut off. So if it's God will, he had a hand in this, because like Davian said, I'm doing much more. I'm being much more productive. I'm saving money.
Yes.
My bank account look kind of nice right now. I'm like, oh, okay, I can save money. I'm not eating out. We're not going out, just blowing money. But I do miss people. I miss kissing on my son. Hey. And I miss the camaraderie. So we thank you all for taking an hour and a half
we got you,
out of your life. Oh, he's a mama boy, honey.
And it shows. It shows.
Time out of your day to come in and be on Unleashed Thursday with us. And we hope that you enjoyed yourself. We hope that you all found some connection with each other and that you all found some relevance in your story tonight.
We thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the invite.
1 year. 1 year.
Thank you. Good to know I'm not crazy and going through it by myself.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson had a lot of good stuff in the songs. You're Not Alone, The Man in the Mirror. You can just go on and on with songs, man. That guy was far ahead of his years, and we need to start kind of listening to them songs and getting our life.
Well, you know what? I just had an epiphany. Maybe we need to start a coronavirus survivor group.
That's interesting.
And you all can get a group like on Facebook, survivors of this, to come in and talk to each other, so people will have an opportunity to vent and show some commonalities of what each other dealing with. I'm in one in a private group, a leader school, and it's awesome. I feel like we in Wakanda.
Right.
So, everybody's like this. It's like love, like Wakanda, like how you would imagine social media would be. So maybe we can get some fruit. A seed been planted tonight, and maybe we can birth something through you all right here. We got 5 to start, and the 7 degrees of separation. Extension. All of y'all know 10 people. So there it go, and they know 10, and they know 10. And boom, next thing you know, you all got a family. Yeah. So, hey, who gonna do it?
It won't be me.
I nominate you.
Won't be me. Yeah, we nominate you, Gwen.
Listen, my plate full. And I promise you.
And that's how come I said.
I love y'all, but I ain't trying to get that swab on my nose right now.
And that's how come I said it wouldn't be me. It's just with the advent of Zoom, and now Facebook got, rooms and all of that. It's too many rooms. You become too consumed. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate you. I talk to Mark all the time. Hey, Cachet, I miss you.
I miss you too.
Together all the time. Together with her singing and all of that. So,
but somebody might need it, because I'm kind of looking at my brother Will. I'm looking at my sister Lavonne.
Yeah.
I can't read Cachet quite.
Right.
Mark, he trying to hold it in.
Oh no, baby.
No, he ain't.
No, he ain't.
He'll inbox me in a minute, man.
And that's the great thing about Mike. What y'all don't know is this brother, and he's right, he's selfless. He does a lot of things that a lot of people wouldn't do. And
he does.
He's truly a voice. And I will tell you this, during the time I was sick, we talk at least once a week, Mike.
Yeah.
And that was a little few minutes, of somebody that's tested positive, but is not going through it. I look forward to, he was like, how you feeling? That when you're going through something, for somebody, just one person to say, you okay? And there were a couple of guys I worked with that stayed calling. You all right? You need anything? Yeah. That's what gets you through. And a lot of people don't recognize the great service that Mike has done. And he'll tell you from the beginning. Now, me and Mike did not get along. Now, we didn't see eye to eye in that police academy.
I know that's right.
But we grew. But we grew, and we grew as men. And if I got a problem, I used to be a little bit more vocal, but now I say, hey, Mike, this is what I'm looking at. And he's just, y'all just don't know how good it is to have somebody like that. At least.
He all right.
Whatever, Gwen. I ain't finna mess with you. I gotta deal with your son all the time. Jesus.
Oh, you ain't lying.
One is enough.
Well, good folks, It's past my dinner time. And I gotta
Oh, let's start this group.
I think Will of Butler gonna get this group going.
Okay.
I feel it in my spirit. Shondo.
See.
Oh Lord, she getting started. It's Pentecost Sunday coming up. She's speaking in tongues already.
I see.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Bye. Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Thank you all again. We out of here, Facebook.
Okay, take care, y'all.
All right.